Although Amazon's Nasdaq's introduction of Alexa more than 3 years ago was quickly followed by other companies, namely Google and at what funky town. Kamala Harris don't kill our babies. Planned Parenthood, which funded your election, slaughters 880 babies in the womb every day, but sure, condemning an unborn child who through no fault of their own is condemned to death by dismemberment is completely immoral, right? At Willis, let us be clear, a public radio station staffed by dogs is a kids show that would do awesome. Lindsey Vonn responded to trolls on Twitter who blasted her following her G World Cup loss on Saturday at the Pyeongchang Olympics. At Real Donald Trump. Funny how the fake news media doesn't want to say that the Russian group was formed in 2014, long before my run for president. Maybe they knew I was going to run even though I didn't know. At Big League Pill. Don't mess with Texas or test teachers. This school district is sending a message. 83 shares Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Google in response to a rash of highly publicized mass shootings in schools. A Texas school district took action by placing large signs in front of every entrance. At Trasai Beans. Bevier. At Jaden Levy. At Think Progress TH. What this shameless clickbait headline doesn't mention is when a donation went to the U.S. Army's JOC program, and what this article doesn't mention is, during the shooting, young JOC members used the JOC's Kevlar sheets to shield a group of 60 students from gunfire. At Shoe0Ned, this was the funniest one. At Fox News, at Bongino, there is no collusion now. There was no collusion yesterday. There was no collusion last year. There is no collusion that is going to happen tomorrow. There is no collusion.
You're absolutely convinced there's a big collusion conspiracy here, and I get it. Your skulls are 6 feet thick. You're committed to this. You think the president is guilty of treason. I get nothing I'm saying is going to change that. I'm just telling you, you're living in a fantasy land. There's no collusion now. There was no collusion yesterday. There was no collusion last year. There is no collusion that's going to happen tomorrow. There's no collusion. Read the indictment. Even worse, Pete, one more point of this. If you read number 53, line 53 of the indictment, they're lined out it's pretty easy to see. You'll see that they actually had groups up there that were Support Hillary, Save American Muslims. These are actual names of groups these Russians supported. There's no collusion. You're just making it up.
Right. And also, I would say that in the indictment, there was no mention of the dossier, which has done more to disrupt American politics than these really stupid ads that we saw, these Facebook ads that we saw come out of this, this indictment.
Right. Now, Rachel, I'm glad you brought that up, because although there is categorically no collusion with the Trump team and these Russians, you can't unwittingly collude, okay? It's not possible. If you understand the definition of collusion, you can't unwittingly collude. It makes no sense. Like,
At Jets Shaw. Can the USA women's curling team beat Canada? We'll find out in 15 minutes. At Via Europe. Angela Merkel's longevity masks the disintegration of Germany's political center. Right now, Germans are preparing to welcome a new government. However, it will be an administration nobody really wants. And that includes most of at Gerda, at Fox News, at Breitbart News, at Info, at Judge Jeanin, at Scene Honit, at Speak at SCNTMJLD, at Fox News, at Breitbart News, at Info Hours, at Judge Jeanin, at Scene Honit, at Speak and at Senate to measure about Hillary losing it was stolen by the gob. Illegal Trump electors were seated. Ag Pam Bundy was one of them. Someone who took Trump's bribe and a gov employee. A report submitted to Congress says that at least 50 Electoral College voters for President-elect Donald Trump were illegal seated either because they didn't live in TH. At Fox News, high school wrestler with Down syndrome wins first match. At 105, at Air Colderwa, what about Fast and Furious, you criminal? At Owen, at Graham Ledger. RT at Graham Ledger, this guy should humiliated, fined, and fired. National school walkout. Dallas Fast sportscaster Dale Hansen weighed in Thursday on the Parkland, Florida, shooting, using his platform to speak out against guns.
Furniture. I said, I'll show you where there's some nice furniture.
My wife, an amazing mother, an incredible woman.
I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case they start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
At Justin Hendricks. A main thing you must remember is that Donald Trump and his campaign were informed by the FBI of the Russian effort to meddle in the election in the summer of 2016, and yet they went on meeting Russians, and messages were synchronized. Donald's feigned ignorance is bizarre. In the wake of a Mueller indictment of a Russian troll farm, any attempt to claim that the 2016 election wasn't affected by Russian meddling is lag. At Rawang, at Secure Democracy per at Secure Democracy is Hamilton 68 dashboard. Russian linked influence accounts are responding to Mueller's indictment by pushing the hashtags no collusion ampersand, never Omni, and clinging to Hannity's false claim that the indictment clears Team Trump of potential wrongdoing. At Seth Abramson, 7 So now we have Trump telling America via tweet that because no one knew that he was running for president until June 2015, there is no way a Russian information warfare campaign initiated in 2014 could have had anything to do with him. Alfarova gives a lie to that statement. At HuffPost poll, 3 billboards in Florida troll Marco Rubio over school shootings. Let us not jump to conclusions, the senator cautioned after the Parkland massacre. At TT45Pack, at Lonegan. Fox and GOP candidate Steve at Lonegan Florida shooting should bring call to return prayer to the classroom, yes. Amen. Denver Rural Colorado School District decided Wednesday night to allow its teachers and other school staff to carry guns on campus to protect. At Snowy Author. Sometimes, when it comes to contacting elected officials, I go old school. I've even gotten letters back, on congressional letterhead. Totally worth the postage. Impaseth the sanctions gun sense no right as words. At Nathans. I loved Black Panther but it doesn't even matter if I liked it. It's about the kids, bro. I just kept thinking about all the kids who grow up watching Black Panther 100 times the same way I watched that first Spider-Man movie. At Marina Siniram. At Biggs. Super Mario Saturday. At MCSPOCKY. The page, How Dixiecrats Became Republicans, is no longer at cjonline.com. You can still view it here though. I am guessing there were too many Republicans whining to them about it. That is okay, we can still see it. At Gardening Angel. For party Trump is an illegitimate president. It was a multi-million-dollar campaign by the Russians to help Trump steal the election. Like retweet follow back comment Mueller indictments Mueller FBR follow back assistance.
Military title. He should also be in jail right now, obviously indicted. And then anybody who helped cover it up, anybody who helped push him through, they should be just as culpable as well. And I guarantee that there's going to be a paper trail, an electronic trail leading back to at least Mike Pence, if not Trump himself. It really is nonsense to think that Trump and Pence are not close with their NSA. I think that there's no way that Mike Pence didn't know. He is too hands-on of a guy. He was leading the transition team himself. And I think that Trump put him in a position where he was set up so that he can take the fall now. And I think that's what's going to happen, is it's going to come out. And hopefully, you know, it's very clear that Pence has the long background with Manafort. You know, I think that as the ties come out, that Pence is going to be thrown under the bus big time by Trump.
Like millions of other people, you own a small business. You sell poke bowls, or artisan vegan cupcakes, or interesting wooden artwork, just like millions of other people. But unlike millions of other people, you use Squarespace to stand out from the sea of sameness. Make your business stand out with a beautiful website. Make it Squarespace.
Actress Ellen Pompeo, star of Outcast medical drama Grey's Anatomy, threatened to beat up Fox News host Lauren Graham.
Whenever they say hoax, you know, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was clear on this. She's saying that, and the White House is saying, is that it's not a hoax that the Russians meddled in the 2016 election. They view a hoax as, you know, the media narrative that they actively colluded with the Russians, and that that they obstructed justice in an effort to stop showing any sort of collusion. So that's kind of what the White House means there. But as you said, it's a bit premature to come out here and declare vindication, which is something that the president is very eager to do. You can show just how frustrated he and many other White House officials are by this ongoing investigation. You know, in the briefing room, 13 out of 15 questions most of the time are about this investigation, and it receives and breathes a lot of the air out of the room when they're trying to focus on opioids and, you know, infrastructure and many of the other initiatives that they view as the things that the media should be focusing on from that room.
At Nana Bizantina. Presented without comment. At Raz Zero First, Respect Women's. At Ed Grasson. Last school shooting in the US 3 days ago. Last school shooting in the US 22 years ago. Both countries have people who are mentally ill. Both countries don't have super lenient gun laws. You decide what the problem is. At Real Kandashio, at Real Donald Trump. Refugees bring their problems with them. Black Panther movie. But when at Real Donald Trump said it, there were boycotts. The star LeBron James responded in a tweet Friday night to Fox News host Lauren Graham after she told him to shut up and dribble rather than criticize President Trump. At Volayusek. Black Panther was 1000% as amazing as I hoped it would be.
We saw 4 different immigration bills come to the floor earlier, and all 4 of them failed. So, first off, what happens now?
Well, I imagine people are going to go behind closed doors and try to cut yet another deal. The danger is not yet past. There remain an awful lot of senators, all the Democrats, and a ton of Republicans who seem to be working very, very hard to grant amnesty and a path to citizenship to 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 million people here illegally. I think that doesn't make any sense. I think it's a serious mistake, but they're going to keep working at it.
Now, let's talk about that. So out of those 4 proposals, you pointed out on the floor earlier that all of them would have at least tripled the amount of amnesty that Obama gave out with the DACA order. What does that say about where the party is on immigration right now?
Look, we're out of our minds. It does not make sense what Republicans are doing. By any measure, the proposals we voted on today are markedly to the left of Barack Obama. Not a little bit to the left, a lot to the left. Obama's executive amnesty covered 690,000 people. I do not understand why so many Republicans are trying to expand that from 690,000 to 1.8 million. That's more than double. That's nearly triple the number of people being protected by this unlawful amnesty. Obama's executive amnesty did not provide citizenship. It didn't provide a path to citizenship. It was simply a work permit. And yet, Republican senators seem to be falling all over themselves to grant citizenship and to grant it to a pool much larger than Obama. Right now, Republicans are galloping to the left of President Obama on illegal immigration. I think that's a serious, serious mistake.
So back in the day, there used to be the phenomenon of the Rockefeller Republican.
At CRTV, at Ted Cruz, at Natama Venkert, find out why saying, at Ted Cruz told at Natama Venkert Republicans are out of our minds. At 105. Facts to liberal are like kryptonite to Superman.
Take my money when I'm in need. Yes, it's a trifling friend indeed. Oh, she's a gold digger. Way over town. That big gold.
I'm Jake Morphonios. In Omaha, Nebraska, a cult of devil worshippers were engaged in horrifying abuses of children. These children were being kidnapped, raped, sacrificed in satanic rituals, and even being cannibalized by the cult. What made these crimes even more bizarre is that among the people committing the crimes were prominent citizens and even politicians. I know how sensational that may sound, but don't be quick to dismiss the claim until you've first heard the evidence.
Omaha, Nebraska, America's gateway to the West. Once home to the Omaha Indian tribe, the name itself means dwellers on the bluff. Lewis and Clark passed this way during their famous expedition. The land later became a center point for fur traders and outposts. In more modern times, the city became known for its various inventions, including Raisin Bran and the Reuben sandwich. It's home to one of the world's largest conglomerates, Berkshire Hathaway, controlled by one of the world's richest men, Warren
Blue
Buffett.
budget chief wants billions more from
But
Germany.
between the years
Post-Brexit
of
news
1988 to
DW62.2018.
1991, Omaha, Nebraska came to be known for something much more insidious. Growing inside the heartland of America was an evil so dark that it's hard for the mind to comprehend. A 2-year investigation by the Nebraska State Foster Care Review Board, alleging bizarre reports of child abuse, was submitted to the state legislature for further investigation. The information that this investigation produced stunned the public to its core. Inside Omaha, a cult of devil worshippers, including high-level U.S. politicians and prominent citizens of Nebraska, was engaged in the systematic rape, mutilation, ritual sacrifice, and cannibalism of numerous children. It was discovered that children in Nebraska's foster care system were being flown to Washington, D.C. to be exploited at sex parties for the powerful elites. Linked to the pedophile ring was a network of criminal enterprises, many being operated by the Central Intelligence Agency, including drug trafficking and illegal arms dealing. In the center of the child prostitution ring was the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union, which was operated
Germany
by
considering
this
free
man,
public transportation
Lawrence
to take on
E.
air
King
pollution. News
Jr.,
DW13
a rising star in
2.2018.
the Republican Party. King was a wealthy and well-connected citizen
In the Russian
in
investigation,
Omaha,
clues
the
were lost in
manager
translation
of a
wired.
Federal Credit Union, owner of several homes and luxury cars. Lawrence King was living the high life, and the future seemed bright. But in 1985, the first omen of future disaster came to pass. On June 10th, the Sheriff's Department in Washington County, Nebraska, contacted the Department of Social Services to report that they had picked up 3 foster children and 1 adopted child who had been living in the home of Jarrett and Barbara Webb following a complaint of abuse. Barbara Webb was the cousin of
Politics
Lawrence
at play
King,
as Tim Ryan's
and her
control of
husband,
Rio Police to
Jarrett,
Army Friends
served on
24.
King's board of directors at the credit union. The Sheriff's Department discovered that the Webbs had been beating the 4 children for quite some time. The children's backs were covered in welts and scratches from being hit with a railroad iron. Further investigation revealed that several previous foster care and adopted children had run away from the Webb's home. One such child was Nellie Patterson Webb, who, at age 16, fled the home and found refuge with her grandmother. Investigators learned that Jarrett Webb had been sexually molesting her since she was 9 years old. Nellie described him French kissing her so forcefully that she couldn't breathe. As time progressed, the molestation grew progressively worse, and Nellie ran away from home. Several more interviews revealed
In
that at
Homs,
least
Assad
6 of the
accused of using
children
military
had in
for urban
fact
planning
been
Syria
tortured
deeply.
by the Webbs, who would force the children to strip naked, beat them with rubber hoses, and withhold food from the children for days at a time. To validate her claims, young Nellie submitted
Kosovo
to
marks
4
10th anniversary of
polygraph
independence
tests,
from Serbia.
which
Friends
all
24.
revealed that she was speaking truthfully. In a confusing twist,
Russia's
after
Lavrov
the state
dismisses as election
suspended the
claims as
foster care
Blabber News
license of Jarrett and Barbara
DW17.2018.
the county prosecutor, whose job it was to prosecute the Webbs for their crimes, a man named Patrick Tripp, came to the defense of the Webbs. He refused to file any charges against the Webbs and went so far as
Here
to
are some of the
publicly
most
state
important quotes from
that
Mueller's indictment
regardless
of
of the
Russians.
corroborating testimonies and the polygraph examinations of Nellie, all of the children were in fact liars. Surprisingly, the person who had demanded the polygraphs in the first place had been Tripp himself. Among the claims that the Webb children had made was that they knew that other children, specifically young boys, were also being abused at a large orphanage in Omaha called Boys Town. One youth care worker at Boys Town named Julie Walters told authorities that
The
she had
impact of
spoken
Chechen
with
and North
County
Caucasian
Prosecutor
militants in
Patrick
Syria,
Tripp, and that
deeply.
Tripp was complaining to everyone that all the abuse claims were untrue and that there was no reason at all to even conduct any further investigation. This same attitude by Tripp
Syria
was
2018
later
the major
reported by
issues for
several
the year
law
ahead. Syria
enforcement
deeply.
agencies involved in the case. What law enforcement didn't know at that time was that
The Black
Tripp
Panther
had good
movie is
reason
racist.
to
Alex
want the
Jones info hours there is a warrant for
investigation
your mind.
Two of his close friends had been named as pedophile abusers by Nellie Webb and her sister Kimberly. One was the superintendent of schools, DeWard Finch, and the other was high school principal Kent Miller. Thanks to Tripp's efforts, no criminal charges were filed against the Webbs, and no social services investigation into the alleged abuse was ever conducted. Why did Nellie and her sister believe that these men were child molesters? According to interview transcripts, not only did the Webbs molest the children in their own homes, but they took the children around to parties hosted by Lawrence King.
Understanding America is entertaining. Syria is a warrant for your mind.
And usually consisted of about 10 to 15 older men.
Business news, markets
25
reports, and
young
financial news from
teenage
Sky
girls.
News.
Other parties were hosted in King's home every other week, in which children from the Boys Town orphanage were brought in to attend. The Webb children, including young Joey Webb, reported that at the parties the men would select one of the young teenagers in attendance, hold out a $50 or $100 bill, and after the
Pro-gun
money was
Russian bots flip
exchanged,
Twitter
the
after
men
Parkland
would take
shooting
their
wired.
chosen child prostitutes upstairs or to some other part of the house to have sex. Nellie and Kimberly noted that at some of the parties, however, the sex took place as a group, with people swapping children around, and even with couples, including their own parents, joining in the sexual activity with other couples. In the report written up by the Boys Town worker Julie Walters, the children had said that they were constantly
Russian
threatened
indictment
with
people,
injury
YouTube,
or worse,
Facebook used this
and
way
that
as
the threats
politics.
came not only from their parents, but from Lawrence King himself. King had
Florida
told
gunman
some of the
Nicholas
children
Cruz
that if
posted
they
videos
talked
of him
about
cutting his
anything they had
arms.
seen, that he would break their legs. In that same report, Walters describes how Lawrence King
Ethiopia
and
under
his
state of
wife
emergency
would
following
actually
Prime
take
Minister's
a few of the
resignation.
children
News
at a
DW
time,
17.2018.
and Kimberly on trips to places like Chicago, New York City, and Washington, D.C., when Nellie was just 15 years old. Nellie was taken along under the pretense that she was acting as the babysitter for the King's young son. But just like back home in Nebraska, the parties that Nellie was taken to by King involved high-profile guests. She personally met then Vice President George Bush at one of the parties, a party in which she witnessed some older men sodomizing younger men in their 20s. As outrageous as this story may sound, the fact is that Nellie told these stories on record nearly 3 years before the Washington
U.S.
Post
officials warn intense flu season to continue. Bird shots.
a damning front-page expose detailing a network of homosexual callboys conducting services in the Reagan-Bush White House. And this would not be the last time that the name of George Bush would surface during this sordid series of events. From my analysis of the various interview transcripts, it appears clear that not only were these sex parties being used to make money, but their primary purpose appears to be an effort to entrap wealthy officials, politicians, or other prominent citizens and blackmail them for money or for political favors. In the transcript of Walter's interview with Kimberly Webb, who was 16 years old at the time of the interview, the teenager reported overhearing her mother, Barbara, talking to another party on the phone about Superintendent of Schools DeWard Finch. Barbara was overheard
India,
saying,
Iran to step
quote,
up cooperation
"I
on
got
Afghanistan.
Finch all the way. I caught him several times down there with black girls." According to Kimberly, Finch had visited the Webb home during school hours. Also, Kimberly said that her mother would regularly come to the school to meet with both Finch and the school principal. Because Kimberly had study hall in a room across from the school's main office, she could see her mother go into the office sometimes carrying a large bag, and would often stay in the office for hours.
Romney officially announces Senator Alex Jones
said that
info
from
hours there is a
snooping
warrant for
around
your
her
mind.
parents' bedroom, she learned that the bag itself contained pornographic
Barack and
photos
Michelle
and
Obama
videos.
portraits unveiled in Washington News
Due to the
DW
interference of
12.2018.
Prosecutor Patrick Tripp, neither the Webbs, the school officials, or Lawrence King were investigated at that time. And the story seemed to end for a time, as Lawrence King was invited by the Republican Party to sing the national anthem at their presidential nominating convention for George Bush in 1988, just as he had done
Mexico
previously
earthquake
in
helicopter
1984,
crashes in emergency
when
killing
Bush
14
was Reagan's
BBC
vice
News.
president. However, if King thought he was in the clear, he was dead wrong. Because in
The director under
1988,
pressure to resign
a
after
new
Florida school shooting.
investigation began. An investigation that exploded into global headlines involving the very same cabal associated with Lawrence King. But this time, the accusations were made by a party
Must
who
track
had
coverage
no
on Syria
knowledge
from
of the
2017
Webbs
Syria
or the
deeply.
prior investigation. Accusations that included alarming tales of satanic ritual abuse and the eating of child victims. Join me next time as we discuss that horrifying story to try to bring the deeds of these evil child molesters out of the darkness and into the light.
The big money says do whatever you have to, but
Idling
keep the
women
money
in jeopardy.
flowing.
What comes next? Syria deeply. At rally, Parkland shooting survivors rail against gun laws. You're in Trump NBC News.
I'm Jake Morphonios, Chief Investigative Journalist for the Blackstone Intelligence Network. What happened in Vegas is a hard-hitting expose on the systematic abuses committed against citizens.
Florida agency
by the Las
investigated
Vegas
Nicholas Cruz
Metropolitan
after
Police
violent social
Department.
media posts. The New York
Under the
Times.
leadership of Sheriff Joe Lombardo, the LVMPD is
Theresa
also
May calls for
engaged
security
in an
agreement.
attempt
News
to cover up
DW
what
17
really
2.2018.
on October 1st at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. We want to show this film on March 8th at the AMC 15 Theater
Life under
in
siege. How
Hickory,
people
North
struggle to survive in
Carolina.
eastern Syria
But
deeply.
in order to be able to show the film, we have to pre-sell a certain number of
Magnitude
movie
7.2
tickets.
earthquake
They
slams
cost
south.
$12
Central
each.
Mexico.
So if you live within driving distance of Hickory, I want to invite you to purchase a ticket and attend the movie with us. But even if you don't live close enough to attend personally, please help out. Chip in to help us show the movie by purchasing a ticket anyway. That way it guarantees that we're going to be able to show this movie to the public. To reserve your ticket, go to my website, blackstoneintel.com. Look for the link at the top of the page so you can go to the reservation site, put in your contact and credit card information, and reserve a ticket. You won't be charged anything unless we hit the number of ticket sales needed, so you've got nothing to lose. We'll show the movie at 6:30 p.m. When it's over, those who would like to attend are welcome to join us at a local restaurant and share a brief message about the Las Vegas investigation. So please go to blackstoneintel.com and reserve your ticket right now. Thank you.
Omarosa says hell no when asked if she ever slept with from AOL News. People are walking into glass at the new Apple headquarters market watch.
Everyone likes to talk about Ethereum killers and the next platform that is going to come out and dethrone Ethereum as the ICO or general purpose computer.
Searching. I found this scraping the internet. I feel so dirty now. Kamehameha Schools settles sexual abuse lawsuit for $80 million Barcon 2. Found this nugget. For the second time in a week, vandals have damaged the restrooms at Real Beach Park. It means there are white terns nesting in those trees. Kung Hee Fat Choi. Panda Express is celebrating Chinese New Year with a new dish, the 8 treasured chicken. This morning we learned a lot. What do you say to a child about the tragedy? How do you get them to share their worries? Kung Hee Fat Choi. We meet the Asian line dance team and find out what the significance of the line dance is, not just at Chinese New Year. Hasho Marosa says hell no when asked if she ever slept with Trump AOL News. Insanity, it's utter insanity out there. Omarosa Manigault Newman is adamant she's not one to sleep her way to the top, but others in the White House might be. The former White House staffer and apprentice contestant was grilled by fellow celebrity Big Brother housemate Brandi Glanville about having an intimate relationship with the president, a theory she quickly denied. Hell no. Oh my god, Brandi, that's horrible, Manigault Newman replied. I'm not there's somebody in the White House that's sleeping around with everybody, but she is not me, I've never had to do that, she explained, without revealing the staffer she was referencing. Related. Omarosa over the years. People are walking into glass at the new Apple headquarters #market watch. Wow, check out what's going on. Published February 17th, 2018, 11:17 a.m. at Futuristic building uses glass extensively, and 2 people have already needed medical attention after smacking into panes. Silicon Valley is known for moving fast and breaking things, but Apple Inc. may want its employees to slow down in order to not break themselves or the company's new $5 billion headquarters. According to documents and sources, Apple minus 0.32% has run into a problem at Apple Park. Because so much of the interior is made from glass walls and doors, for example, people are walking into the panes, sometimes painfully. The company, famous for its innovative design, experienced at least 2 incidents of men walking into glass and causing injuries serious enough to warrant calls for local emergency services in the early days of its new spaceship campus, according to documents MarketWatch obtained via public records request. Both resulted in minor cuts but did not appear to require hospitalization, the records showed. I found this in the dark corners of the internet. It was very scary. With Syria's healthcare system crippled by conflict, women and children are dying from treatable illnesses. One doctor and his team are providing them safe, dedicated medical care by building hospitals below ground, out of the reach of airstrikes. At CNNBRK 5M. In a fiery rally, students from a school where men killed 17 people demand lawmakers do something about mass shootings. At NASA 8M. Community college students interested in a STEM career apply for our Aerospace Scholars program where you can work on projects & share ideas with our engineers, scientists, & peers from across the nation. MCAS 2018 Apps due 3518. Info. At Case Neistat 13M1, took these beautiful ladies to the beach for the weekend. It was kinda Valentine's Day surprise. At Baby Namalpix 2H, everything is terrible so I googled dogs being interviewed and it helped. At Iamlacadmix 50M5. Strippers said a prayer hoping that flies and black youngster would make it rain on them. At Duff25M2, at the Beast of, looking to Oregon in Texas, at the Beast of Costin. At Espenstats Info 1Age. Michigan State trailed by 22 PTS at the break. This was the second largest halftime deficit overcome by a road team in the last 10 years. Binghamton trailed Vermont by 23 on February 4, 2009, before winning 8-5-83. At Variety 11 and 1. The director of the upcoming Ed Sheeran film songwriter said the film aims to give a look at the ordinary guy behind the music. At Nat Geo 7H. How do you help a giraffe with a wire wrapped dangerously around its neck? At deadmau5a, even fits nicely in my basement. Lol. At Nat Geotravelfae, a visit to the world's tallest Hindu Shiva statue also offers stunning views of the surrounding Kathmandu Valley. At Bonniver 8H. The 10th anniversary limited edition release of Forever Ago is out now by Jagjagar. LPS and CDs are available at Antonitis Forever 10-year table. Forever 10. At Web 1H. A steaming bowl of chicken soup may help you feel better faster when you have a cold. Learn why. At W14H1, at Aj Style Sir, at Rey Mysterio. How fast would you buy your ticket to see at Aj Style Sir go toe-to-toe with former world heavyweight champion at Rey Mysterio? At PBSPRENTS 10H1. Incidental learning refers to learning that occurs when you are not specifically trying to learn. Some parents call these teachable moments today. Turn the grocery store into a teachable moment with this printable math activity. At Markiplier 9H. Hey guys, I am really sorry to say this, but we had to cancel the Amsterdam shows. Please read for more info. At History Peaks 1H. Pope John Paul II walks with President Ronald Reagan, Miami, 1987. At Hulk Hogan Faye, it has 5 o'clock somewhere, it doesn't matter if it has 5 o'clock somewhere, brother H. At the Notorious Muffet, controlling the human head. At McQueen 14H1. A deconstructed corset dress with trailing garden flower embroideries is fitted in the Paris Atelier in the days before the Alexander McQueen Spring-Summer 2018 show. Photograph by Sir Don McCullen. Explore. At Golf Digest 34 and 3. DJ 6 is absolutely dismantling the front 9 at Riviera right now. His final 9, 4 birdies and an eagle. He needs a par at no 9 to shoot 29 on that side. All of a sudden he has T6. At Queen Willock 14H1. And finally the set list. Europe Auckland. Same again tomorrow. New Zealand photo Justine Ellis. At Patcoffee Show 18H1. At Sean Latham. At Smitty Bars 2. Proud of the homie at Sean Latham. Incredible performance by him tonight. What an electric fight. Congrats to at Smitty Bars 2. at Fox24H2, at Vitorbalver, at Leotomashidov. Legend vs. Legend, at Vitorbalvert and at Leotomashidov are penciled in for F224. Who leaves Rio with a W? At UNESCO 15H1. Let us turn waste into educational tools. Wait, is that even possible? Indeed it is. The recycling project from this school in Yemen proves it. At Impfay, happy birthday, Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth has 22 acting credits on IMDb. Scarlett, which one is your favorite?
Vicente Fox is a predator. Vicente Fox is a globalist. Vicente Fox is preying on not just the Mexican people, but the people of the United States and the world. Vicente Fox is 6'6" and has a pure Castilian bloodline back to royalty in Spain. His people have been in Mexico for 400 years. And he doesn't have one drop of Native American blood in him that I probably do. Thought I'd start a little transmission of that before we get to the video, because if you watch the Mexican Congress, they're whiter than I am. They're all over 6 feet. A lot of them got blonde hair, blue eyes. Not that that's bad. But it's colonialism. It never ended. They had Hungarian and German royalty over it repeatedly just 150 years ago or so. Look it up. It's incredible. You heard about the Marines in the halls of Montezuma? We'll fight our country's battles from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. That's Mexico City. When they had an Austrian-Hungarian king in there that was using Mexicans as
Germany asked Gabriel, we need a European movement. News DW 17.2018.
Like, was enslaving the population, so they broke off. My point is that he goes on Bill Maher, this globalist program, Friday night, last night. Talking in the special report. And he badmouths America and Trump and says that President Trump is to blame. We're going to play the clip in a moment.
Stolen €1 million cello returned to French musician of Gaylor. News DW 17.2018.
In the last 12 years, starting the first few years of his presidency, when it all started, over 180,000 dead Mexicans, mainly women and children, some men, have been found dead. And then there's countless graves out there. No one knows how many. So,
Aft censures firebrand Andrei Puggenberg over anti-Turkish remarks. News DW16 2.2018.
Mass shootings are big media events, but they're flat. Didn't happen until the 60s. They are up before the 60s, because it didn't happen before, but since the 60s, crazy people shoot people in mass for no reason, starting with UT at the tower. It's been flat, and it's terrible. A couple hundred a year. Tens of thousands down by cars, tens of thousands down by lightning, slipping in the shower. But you've got 160, 170, 180, depending on the numbers you look at. Look it up yourself. Mexico is the world capital of homicide, kidnapping, murder, you name it. Beautiful country, great people. It used to be like that. I'm going to explain what happened to it in a minute. Because what's painful about watching...
After Florida school shooting, thousands demand change at Antigua Rally. News DW17 2.2018.
He's totally right in the second part. Because for Mexico...
White House blames Russia for NotPetya, the most costly cyber attack in history. Wired.
Fox is weird because he says decriminalize...
Magnitude 7.2 earthquake rattles Mexico, triggering deadly helicopter crash. France 24.
But then he says Trump is...
Federal immigration raids in Southern California target 122 businesses.
Cruz, who I wouldn't even call Hispanic. It's like a white guy to me. Going and shooting people for no reason.
Understanding America's endgame in Syria. Syria deeply.
200,000 people dead in the last 12 years, 13 years in Mexico, I guess since like 2014. No, 2004, so 13, 14 years. You add the numbers together, it's like 20, 30 times what we have, depending on which year you look at.
The Syrian doctor building an underground hospital for women in Syria deeply.
Why is this happening in Mexico, where they disarm the whole public? The citizens haven't been able to own guns for over 100 years, since they eradicated Pancho Villa. And then he's saying that Trump's to blame with no evidence. It's not about defending Trump. It's like, how did Trump do this? He doesn't even say how. And the media has this all over the
The
news.
impact of Chechen and North Caucasian militants in Syria. Syria deeply.
The fact that we got people on serotonin reuptake inhibitor, Prozac class drugs, that the insert of the drug that comes with the pills says may make you a mass murderer. And that there's ads for this stuff all over the very news that pushes to take the American people's rights. We've had thousands killed the last few years by Islamists. Way more than guns in Europe.
The acknowledges failure to investigate tip on Florida gunman. France 24.
Nice, the example.
Total East tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany. RSDW16 2.2018.
They put up barricades everywhere on every major road.
Russian stocks stumble on Mueller indictments.
They call them freedom barricades. So, you've got hundreds of times, I mean, what is almost 200,000 versus 17 in Florida? I don't even know the numbers. You've got thousands of times, I don't know, what's the numbers? 17 dead. 160, 170,000 that we know of. Most people are buried or fed to hogs. That's how they do it in Mexico. We used to do that right here in Texas. Feed them to the hogs. That's where Jimmy Hoffa went, folks. And then there's no discussion because it dehumanizes all these Mexicans being killed by other Mexicans in the drug war. And then you just say, oh, Trump, you're responsible for 17 dead with no proof because of your rhetoric. Former Mexican president, mass shootings are consequences of racism like Trump's. When you speak out of the White House, this aggressive, violent language, that's what you get. What
New antibiotic found in Lex Jones InfoWars. There is a war on for your mind.
So, Fox was hooked into cartels like Carlos Slim, that knows the New York Times.
How Russia benefits from Turkey's saffron Operation Syria deeply.
I'm a
Political news international and the politics Sky News.
And on both sides of my family, we married Native Americans and all the rest of it. Fox is proud of the fact he has a pure bloodline back to Spain, which is fine if he wants to stay Castilian. The point is that his family's been in Mexico about 50 years after Cortez was there. He was the second wave. Okay? I think my family, is cool getting Mexican land grants, in 1829 and paying for our land, 3 cents an acre in East Texas. And when the Mexican government tried to take it, we fought back. This guy's been here since the early 1600s, bare minimum, his family. And he never, no one in his family ever laid down with a Native American and a child.
Politics Yahoo News latest news ampersand headlines.
At the U.S., like we're racist, when we're the big melting pot. When you watch Mexican TV, man, it's all gorgeous.
Must-read coverage on Syria from 2017. Syria deeply.
There's not any Native American on those women. And you read the name.
How Parkland students are setting and keeping the record straight wired.
My God, it's more Anglo-centric. It's more Germanic, really. That's what it is. It's what colonized it. I'm part German. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's all these German names and Swiss names and Dutch.
Florida,
names.
angry and grieving, takes gun protest to streets.
And it was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire that ran it for 100+ years. And I am cursed with knowledge, with history. And I see this purebred Castilian who's way wider than I am, like 6'6", up there smart, And he's telling me how America's racist when I'm part Comanche. And
Alex Jones info hours there is a one for your mind.
I sit there and I hear his arrogance about how America's racist and Trump's racist when he has a border, when he was president with Guatemala, and will give you a year in prison for slavery if you can't cross illegally.
A timeline of a tightening siege in Eastern Ghouta, Syria deeply.
His racist, elitist, Castilian, supremacist behavior, where the Castilians call the Mexicans cockroaches, that's well known. The famous communist Che Guevara wrote 2 books where he called Mexicans.
Ethiopia declares state of emergency after PMS resignation. France 24.
Families, they like God, and they like the little bit of free market they had. They said, we want to run our own business.
Trump's national security advisor evidence that Russia meddled in a selection incontrovertible.
According to the elitist like Che Guevara,
Pakistan man sentenced to death for rape, murder of 7-year-old News DW 17.2018.
Because they wouldn't go under his control. Well, Fox thinks you're a roach, and he thinks Americans are roaches. And I personally am just sick of this shit. Because what does some crazy person hopped up on stuff the FBI knew about for years, that called himself school shooter, and said he was going to do all this stuff, and his last name's Cruz? Did I come out and say people with Spanish last names are guilty because this guy's named Cruz? No!
Winn-Dixie reportedly plans to close almost 200 stores by.
We have a pro-American president. Happens to be white.
The Black Panther movie is racist. Alex Jones info hours there is a one for your mind.
So he's behind the shooting. Think about how insulting that is. And then we
Trump says Russian meddling indictment proves no collusion time.
I'm pissed off, man. They roll out the red carpet for every foreign leader, every foreign group, every group to come in here. North Korea, that is the most oppressive country since Nazi Germany, and they send all these women.
Omaros is asked on Celebrity Big Brother if she slept with Donald Trump.
He
News.
goes, oh, she's sexy, she's cool. We hope she attacks him, and Whoopi Goldberg joins in all this crap. I mean, I kind of get joining with Vicente Fox. He's an articulate, charming guy. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He's big, powerful, European alpha.
Omarosa claims someone in the White House is sleeping around with everybody. Vanity Fair.
He's a survivor. He's related to Spanish royalty, folks. That's a Spanish king right there you're looking at. That guy's 9 generations back. They conquered Mexico. They defeated the Muslims. That guy. That's you look at the paintings of Spanish kings. That is a Spanish royal right there. All I'm saying is, asshole, don't sit here and play this game like you're going to piss on America. We're open to everybody and try to have free market.
Telltale internet message may have foreshadowed Florida school massacre.
Goddamn Spanish king, you son of a bitch. What the hell are you talking about? I'd be 6'6".
A new part of the market is selling off as traders get wake-up call by.
The point is that you...
I need to find something. This story blows my mind. Infamous Google memo author shut down by Federal Labor Board bar Ars Technica. Gee willikers. By Sam Wojtkowicz, February 16, 2018, 10:42 p.m. on. Former Google engineer James Damore has attempted to take civil and legal action against his former employer after being fired in August, but on Thursday, a federal memo revealed that one of Damore's filings has been unequivocally denied. The National Labor Relations Board published its memo this week, which was issued in January after Damore filed a charge against his former employer on August 8. In spite of Damore withdrawing his NLRB filing in September, the board proceeded to examine and issue its own ruling. Google discharged Damore only for his unprotected conduct while it explicitly affirmed his right to engage in protected conduct. The NLRB emphasized that any charge filed by Damore on the matter should be dismissed. In explaining the board's reasoning, NLRB member Jamie Suffer points to two specific parts of the controversial memo circulated by Damore in August. Damore's claim that women are more prone to neuroticism, resulting in women experiencing higher anxiety and exhibiting lower tolerance for stress, and that men demonstrate greater variance in it than women. Suffer describes how these gender-specific claims resemble other cases decided by the NLRB that revolved around racist, sexist, and homophobic language in the workplace. She says that specific Damore statements were discriminatory and constituted sexual harassment. Notwithstanding his effort to cloak his comments with scientific references and analysis, and notwithstanding his "not all women" disclaimers. Moreover, those statements were likely to cause serious dissension and disruption in the workplace. Trump was reportedly briefed on special counsel Russia indictments. The internet is really big, really big, guys. President Donald Trump was briefed about indictments related to Russian interference in the 2016 election on Friday. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein filled the President in before Justice Department Special Counsel Robert Mueller offices announced the indictment of 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities, a White House official told NBC News. The Justice Department alleges the defendants shared information and organized political activities to sow discord, support Trump's campaign and disparage his 2016 rival Hillary Clinton. The indictment neither alleges that Americans knowingly aided the Russian effort, nor does it say if the efforts to interfere affected the election's outcome, Rosenstein said. That applies to the specific indictment Friday. In a statement, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders noted that the Justice Department said the Russian effort started in 2014. President Donald J. Trump has been fully briefed on this matter and is glad to see the special counsel's investigation further indicates that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia and that the outcome of the election was not changed or affected, the statement said. Telltale internet message may have foreshadowed Florida school massacre. Now this is just outlandish. By Bernie Woodall and Zachary Fagenson. Parkland, Florida, Reuters. The 19-year-old man accused of shooting 17 people to death at a Florida high school legally purchased the assault rifle used in the killings and may have foreshadowed the attack in a social media comment investigated by the FBI last year, authorities said on Thursday. New details about the troubled background and gun ownership of a suspect, Nicholas Cruz, emerged as he appeared in court to face formal charges of carrying out the second deadliest mass shooting at a public school in U.S. history. Authorities also shed more light on how the suspect made a getaway by blending in with students fleeing the school, then casually spent more than an hour drifting through a Walmart store and visiting 2 fast food outlets before he was arrested. The tragedy in the Miami suburb of Parkland, Florida, raised questions among anguished parents about the adequacy of school security measures and renewed a national debate on Capitol Hill and elsewhere about the epidemic of gun violence in American schools. At CNN, Vice President Mike Pence says school safety is going to be the Trump administration's top priority.
I'm responsible for forging my own destiny. We all are.
Star Trek Discovery. All episodes now streaming exclusively on CBS All Access.
Spiritual wounds of this scourge for the rest of their lives. And every time we have another high-profile mass shooting, because remember, we have a Virginia Tech in this country every single day. Dear God, dare we call it ordinary gun violence. No other country has such an idea, but we have it. And every time we have another high-profile mass shooting, I keep hoping this is the time this is the place where we will turn those hearts of stone to hearts of flesh, in the words of Scripture. And every time so far, I have been disappointed we haven't been able to do enough of it yet. We are going to do it. And the reason we're going to do it, look behind you and look in front of you and look across the street, and you'll see the reason we're going to do it, because the American people have had enough. We're here in solidarity with the 17 people who were killed in Parkland, and I'm here to tell you, this is living hell. When you first go into this dark valley, and some people never come out of it.
Active and EVE. There is no allegation in the indictment of any effect on the outcome of the election. No collusion, no collusion, no collusion.
How can you...
At that tolerant one. Have you recanted your racism? This is like watching a religious zealot from 800 years ago who thinks they found a heretic.
As part of anti-fascist organisations, is that what's happening?
Can I ask you what makes me a fascist?
Being a fascist involves being racist.
Okay, so what have I ever said that's racist?
I don't even need to recap the EDL's record on racism. You led the EDL. Have you recanted your attitude as part of the EDL?
What have I ever said that's racist? You've got no
Do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah,
do you want me to bring it up?
Please tell me what I've said that's racist.
Your anti-Islam stance is racist.
So Islam is a race, or Islam is a religion.
Your stance towards Islam is racist, and it has been racialised.
Islam is a political ideology. If I have a problem with a book, I don't have a problem with people. Islam is a manifestation of a book.
I absolutely disagree with you.
So you believe Islam's a race?
No, I don't believe it's a race. I think that your attitudes towards Islam is racist and racialised.
Do you know what you've just done here? It's embarrassing for yourself.
I'm embarrassed that you're in Cambridge. I'm embarrassed that you're allowed to sit in this cafe. I'm embarrassed to sit next to you.
I don't want to argue. I just want to have my breakfast, bro. That's all I want to do.
Why should you be allowed to have breakfast here?
Because it's a free society, love. It's a free society. We beat the Nazis.
You beat the Nazis.
Yes.
You're fucking supporting Nazi ideology.
You're swearing at breakfast. You're embarrassing, darling. You're embarrassing. You don't have no reason or
I'm
argument.
embarrassed to sit next to fascists
You're from a different world to me. You don't know what it's like to grow up in Luton. You live in a different world.
Outside.
You don't have no idea what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about.
No, you don't.
I know people who've been directly affected by
you
your
don't.
actions and the actions of your organisation.
Like what? Sorry, like what? Excuse me? Like what? So you can't mention one thing I've ever said. You don't know one thing I've ever done. But you just no, you don't have an argument. You don't have an argument. Do you know how fascist that is, what you're saying? You don't think people should be free? You're embarrassing. There's children sitting in it. There's children sitting in it. You're an embarrassing.
They should know about
You're embarrassing. You're embarrassing. Sorry about that, everyone. Sorry about that, folks.
At Real Daily Wire. Media push the claim there have been 18 school shootings in 2018. Here are the facts.
I don't know what's happening. It's a lot. Question for you this morning. We've had a big conversation over just the past couple of days in the markets here about the potential for inflation. There's a conversation about how tax reform has actually been will be a short-term stimulus, effectively overstimulate the market. What do you make of all these arguments?
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm very encouraged by the impact of tax reform already. Some said it was going to be Armageddon. It's clearly been a positive. The reports, individuals right now this month that are seeing their paychecks increase, more take-home pay. The long list of companies that have been, adding those bonuses and announcing better leave policies and higher wages. I mean, that's a positive, and we needed that for our economy. And our hope is that this is just the beginning, that it continues. I've talked to a number of businesses, small and large, who are still making their plans, but this gives them more confidence that we needed, that our economy needed, so that there would be a longer-term economic growth for America, more opportunities, really getting at the forgotten men and women of this country who want a better life.
I don't know if you saw this. We have conversation on this show all the time about carried interest. We've not talked about it this morning, but a number of hedge funds. Did you see this story yesterday? Have been moving to Delaware to try to capture basically a 20% rate. Some guys from Elliott Management and other places. Actually, our friend Mr. Sternlicht is doing this, trying to do this too. Mnuchin says that he's going to try to cut this out somehow. But how worried are you about people trying to find new loopholes and effectively abuse the new system?
I've been much more inspired lately by the children of America than the adults.
It was very large, it's very complicated. Our goal going into tax reform was that we would simplify the tax code, that we would close many loopholes, that we would really ensure that lower middle income Americans were benefiting.
In November 2017, terrorists swept into a mosque in Egypt and murdered 305 people using automatic weapons. This story got very little attention in the media. Why? Because in Egypt it is illegal to buy assault weapons, and yet terrorists got them anyway. The assault, in an area racked by an Islamist insurgency, sent shockwaves across the nation, not only for the death toll but also for the choice of tea. At Truth and Gov 2016. Flashback Susan Rice
senior White House officials and the most senior responsible for national security. I found that report a bit perplexing. I was not aware of any orders given to disseminate that kind of information.
Well,
so I have no idea whether that was the case. But the fact is that the president did request back in December, the intelligence community compile all of the information. And when we have the White House of the United States putting out information that everybody can see to be inaccurate, if not deliberately false, it shakes the credibility and the confidence of our allies, and it lends doubt to our adversaries who may miscalculate. And it undermines the confidence of the American people in what comes out of the White House, which is very detrimental in the event we have a national crisis and we need to rally around the flag. Allegation that we've already discussed, which was quite shocking, that the president's predecessor, President Obama, had illegally wiretapped his office building during the campaign. And we've heard from bipartisan leaders of Congress, as well as from the director of the FBI, that there's no information to support that allegation. And yet there's been no correction, no apology. And I think the world is not impervious to what happens here in the United States. And on the contrary, they watch it very, very carefully. And they wonder and worry, what does this mean? Can we trust the word of the White House? It's very important that the commander-in-chief own responsibility for decisions such as that.
At Mesosphere, the definitive guide to adopt, design and manage cloud-native infrastructure free download. At I am Justin Bailey, 1991, an ominous excerpt from William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. Using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion, Vassia inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. What is Culture Waco? The federal immigration officials over at ICE have a difficult job. For starters, most liberals out there have done their best to purposely conflate illegal crime. At Via Europe, Antifa thugs tried to attack Germany as Women's March today. The women were protesting against migrant violence in Berlin. At Topkins. It is okay, St. Brendan of the Cox. We knew, back 2016. More income on my arse. At MuleSoft. Scaling a DevOps model requires a focus on asset consumption and reuse. Learn how an OP strategy enhances DevOps. At Steve D's show. Mitt Romney is gonna SSSSUUCCCCKKKK as the senator, except when it comes to virtue signaling. Thoughts and prayers to Lindsey Graham for the Sunday morning news show invites he is about to lose. Intelligence officials can selectively release classified information to trusted journalists while withholding the same information from other citizens who At Joanne Reed. Incredible job, record-setting, everyone is talking about it. Trump lacks the basic human empathy to even console victims. So he reverts to his usual salesman-esque lingo, directed at police and doctors. Something fundamental is missing in this man. The President and the First Lady visit a hospital and sheriff's office near the school where 17 people were killed in a shooting rampage. At Fortune, Paul doesn't like using weapons. At Sean Spicier. I support Lebanon's First Amendment right to continue to show he has no idea what he is talking about. At Busa 617. DC they're all scared they're next. At Brandon Groney. If FB couldn't stop a kid who literally told people who told FB that he was going to shoot up a school, what else are they missing? It is quite terrifying if you think about it. FB must be reformed. At civil racists. Special election today, Saturday, February 17th. God for Michael Shores, Louisiana House District 86 polling flipped blue at the State House to whenever every vote counts. At Canoser. Never change, hate. Kurt Bardella, at PO2. At the heart of our country is the idea that Americans are empowered to choose who represents them in public office. That fundamental right of governance is under siege right now, and the POTUS is not doing anything about it. That fundamental right to choose our own leaders is under siege, and the president is not only doing nothing, he won't accept that it is happening. #83 shares Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Google in response to the Parkland, Florida school shooting that left 17 people dead. The anti-gun voices in Washington, D.C. immediately began screaming for gun. At Montacones, assign me Fourth Circuit strikes down Trumpist Muslim travel ban. At Cam, special elections coming up in California for state assembly primaries April 3rd, 2018 election June 5th, 2018 District 39 voter Ricardo Benitez, District 45 voter Justin Clark, District 54 voter Glenn Ratliff. At Slick Tweets, Californication Air Force and private military groups flying in our airspace and ignored by the Operation Killing GSO fleet exercise. Pray and pray everyone be kind to one another and pay attention to the skies and what is going on.
Psychic spies from China try to steal your mind's elation, and little girls from Sweden dream of silver screen quotation. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's Californication. The sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location. It's understood that Hollywood sells Californication. Pay your surgeon very well to break the spell of aging. Celebrity skin, is this your chin or is that war you're waging? Firstborn unicorn, hardcore softcore. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Marry me, girl, be my fairy to the world, be my very own constellation. A teenage bride with a baby inside, getting high on information. And buy me a star on a boulevard.
At Thed Coalition, if the president wants to come up to me and tell me to my face that it was a terrible tragedy, high school sophomore Emma Gonzalez said, I am going to happily ask him how much money he received from the Florida shooting. If all our government and president can do is send thoughts and prayers, then it is time for victims to be the change, said one student.
It was somehow unimaginable that they would try this in the United States.
Yeah.
This was kind of crossing a red line, and I think Americans were simply not aware that this degree of influence maneuvering was going on.
Welcome to Breaking News Today. The like button, and if you're new, make sure they hit that subscribe button down below and turn on my post.
Liberal teacher caught giving kids shooting lessons, just with a very disturbing target. In an age where students are expelled, suspended, or even arrested for pointing finger guns, pop-tart guns, chasing fictional dinosaurs with guns, or even simple drawings of guns, what should happen to a high school teacher who shoots a water gun at a video projection of President Donald Trump in front of her students? An 8-second video was posted to a personal Instagram account, showing a woman holding a water gun. The water gun was pointed at an image of President Trump as it was projected onto a whiteboard as she yelled "Die!" and then shot the gun at President Trump's projected image during his inauguration speech. The Instagram account belonged to Paul Modi, an art teacher at Adamson High School. That Instagram account has since been made private. Dallas News reported Modi had been suspended over outrage sparked by the video. For local news affiliate KDFW Fox News 4-. The original video was reportedly posted on the teacher's own Instagram account and captioned, "Watching the inauguration in my classroom like #no #stop #denial #squirt gun #hypocrisy #powerless." That post has been removed, but copies of the video are still circulating on social media. "Some people doesn't like him as our president," said student Maisham Kfail.
Germany is Gabriel. We need a European moment. News DW17 2.2018.
It's supposed to be in a professional way, in a conduct to where you teach your students, said parent Christina Ortiz. You have a freedom of speech and opinion, but you need to do it properly. Christian Leos is in one of her classes, though he did not witness what happened. I don't know if she meant it, the student said. I'm sure she just meant it in a funny way because that's how she is. She's usually trying to make jokes. Leos says Modi is very sarcastic but says he's still surprised by what he saw in the video. Just because you don't like whatever's going on, we don't show it like that, he said. There's other ways to show it. A letter went home to parents letting them know what happened. The school released a statement saying
of everyday life
the
in
teacher
former
has
East
been
Germany
placed on administrative leave and the district has opened an investigation. This is a personnel matter and, as such, we cannot comment. And while just board members can't comment on the incident directly, they said teachers need to be better role models. Even if you disagree with certain political issues or political figures, I think we owe it to kids to set the right example when it comes to civility in politics, said board member Miguel
Solis. Wants billions more from Germany. Post-Brexit News DW16 2.2018.
Teach art but not your personal political views, not in the classroom, said board member Lou Blackburn. The school district suspended Modi and then issued this statement about the outrage in the community to the video. Today, we were made aware of a social media posting being circulated involving a teacher at W.H. Adamson High School. The teacher has been placed on administrative leave and the district has opened an investigation. This is a personnel matter and, as such, we cannot comment. This seems to be a growing trend that began on Inauguration Day and continues to this day. Leading the charge in death threats to President Trump are those in Hollywood, mainstream media, and everyday community leaders, including teachers like Modi. Various examples of the rampant vitriol leveled at President Trump include Kathy Griffin and the now infamous photograph of her holding a fake, bloodied, decapitated head that looked
Ramaphosa
suspiciously
South
like
Africa's
President
stagnant
Trump in an
economy,
image
France
that many
24.
say was reminiscent of Islamic State propaganda.
Japan plans to raise pension age beyond 70 News DW 72.2018.
March on Washington in 2017 where she stated, "I've thought a lot about blowing up the White House." Rapper Snoop Dogg shoots Trump in the head in music video. Actor Robert De Niro proclaimed of President Trump during a filmed outtake during a voter registration PSA during the 2016 presidential race where he stated of then presidential candidate Trump, "He's a punk. He's a dog.
After Florida
He's
school
a pig.
shooting,
He's
thousands
a con.
demand change at
He's a
anti-gun News
bullshit
DW
artist. A mug who doesn't know
72.2018.
what he's talking about. Doesn't do his homework.
Federal
Doesn't
immigration
care.
raids in Southern
Thinks he's
California
gaming
target
society.
122 businesses.
Doesn't pay his taxes. He's an embarrassment to this country. He talks about how he wants to punch people in the face. I'd like to punch him in the face. Shakespeare in the Park in New York City staged a production of Julius Caesar during its 2017 summer program, but with a twist
Stolen
on the
€1 million
classic
cello
play.
returned to French
Caesar
musician
looked
Lee Taylor
just
News
like
DW
Donald Trump,
72.2018.
with a business suit and tie and a familiar blonde hairdo. As happens in the play, the Trump-like Caesar is eventually brutally stabbed to death by his associates in the Senate. David Simon, creator of The Wire, reacted to rumors that the president had considered firing the special counsel appointed to oversee the Russia investigation, Robert Mueller, by suggesting that Americans pick up a goddamn brick if the president followed through. He tweeted
Deeply
June
talks the
12,
future of Syria's
"If
female
Donald Trump
Syria
fires
deeply.
Robert Mueller and is allowed to do so, pick up a goddamn
Best
brick."
President Estates
That's
Tales
all that's left to
2018
you.
on laptops,
Actor Mickey
TVS,
Rourke
and
went on a
Gearwired.
profanity-laced tirade against President Trump, stating, according to TMZ, "Donald Trump can go FCK himself."
In Syria's
His
tangled
wife
conflict,
said,
a kind of regional
he's a
war has
tough
already
guy.
Syria deeply.
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and a BTCH, and he can suck my f***ing DCK. I'll meet him in a hotel room any motherfucking day of the week and give him a Louisville Slugger. Kiss my motherfucking ass, you BTCH punk C-sucker. Actress Lita Laria threatens to take out Republicans and independents with baseball bat
Facebook
after
SVP
President
had
Trump's
$611,000.
2016
Here is the history
presidential
of its
election
biggest
on
ups and downs.
social
Zero
media,
edge.
along with the hashtags #FTrump, #FTGUP, #Straight with America, and #Higher Privilege. Rappers YG and Nipsey Hussle released a song during the 2016 presidential campaign called FCK Donald Trump, with lyrics that contained several threats toward the then candidate. "I like white folks, but I don't like you. All the N's in the hood wanna fight you. Surprised El Chapo ain't tried to snipe you. Surprised the Nation of Islam ain't tried to find you. Have a rally out in LA. We gon'
Suicide bombers
FCK
kill at
it up."
least 19 in
YG
Northeast
raps
Nigeria.
in the
Market
song.
attack France
You
24.
vote Trump, then you're probably on dope. And if you're asked to win, you gon' probably get smoked, adds Hustle. YG later complained that his record label had been contacted by the Secret Service. Shock rocker Marilyn Manson released a music video for his song Satan right around Election Day, where he stands over the lifeless body of a
Yahoo
man
Mail
resembling
3
Donald
1000
Trump
GB
while
of storage.
ripping pages out of a Bible. Then a man wearing a suit and a red tie,
Idly women
a
in
not
jeopardy.
so subtle
What
allusion
comes next?
to
Syria
President
deeply.
Trump, is seen decapitated on the ground in a pool of blood. Rapper and former House of Pain frontman Everlast went off on President Trump in an interview with Billboard in April 2016. He stated, "FCK that dude. I'll smack that F-curse comb over right off his F-king scalp. Like, for real, if I met Donald Trump, I'd punch him in his F-king face." And that's not
White
a
House
joke.
blames Russia for not picking up
Even if
the
he
most
did
costly
become
cyber
president,
attack in history.
watch
Wired.
out, Donald Trump, because I will punch you in your f***ing face if I ever meet you. Secret Service had better just f***ing be on it. Don't let me anywhere
Politics at
within
play
a
as
block.
Tim Ryan's control of
This
Rio
is
Police to
horrible.
Army Friends 24.
Daily Show contributor Larry Wilmore jokes about suffocating Trump during a segment on his Comedy Central show The Nightly Show. Anyway, since we're talking about bigotry, we have to mention
The
Donald
shifting role of
Trump.
women in Syria's
Sorry
economy is Syria
everyone,
deeply.
I don't want to give him any more oxygen. That's not a euphemism, by the way. I mean it literally. Somebody get me the pillow they used to kill Scalia, and I'll do it. I'll do it. Sarah Silverman tweeted,
Video fleeing
"Wake up
ethnic
and join
strife.
the resistance."
Congolese refugees seek haven
Once
on
the
Ugandan shores.
military
Friends
is
24.
U.S. fascists get overthrown. Mad King and his handlers go
The fate of
bye-bye.
minorities in
A
post-ISIS
Utah
Syria
man
and
named
Iraq. Syria
Travis
deeply.
Luke Dominguez was indicted in January 2018 on 11 counts, including threatening to kill President Trump and threatening to harm police officers if they tried to stop him, according to the Salt Lake Tribune. Senator Maria Chappelle-Nada of Missouri tweeted, according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, "I hope Trump is assassinated." And there are many others, and it seems never-ending. How then is it such a surprise that this sort of behavior makes it into our classrooms
Alex
and in
Jones
front
info
of
hours? There is a one
impressionable
for your
young
mind.
minds, and those with no support system then choose to act on those same suggestions.
We shouldn't have had to endure this as children. Any school district, any school in general should not have to endure the grief and sadness that Stoneman Douglas had to, that Sandy Hook had to, that Columbine had to. There should be none of those, and still there should only have been one for there to be a change.
The Syrian doctor building an underground hospital for women in Syria deeply.
We're not going to give up this time. Every kid in the South Florida area knows at least one student from any other South Florida school. We're just so strong, we're so interwoven that we have this huge voice, and we're not going to give up. This time is going to be the time. This time is enough that we're going to start the change.
Like, you hear about these shootings so often, it just starts to feel normal or commonplace, but that's what the problem is. It's not normal. This doesn't happen in any other nation in the world, and yet it's happening all the time here and right now in our own home. But we have to remember that everywhere is somebody's home, so this cannot keep happening. Our children, our future, what are we supposed to do if people keep getting killed senselessly?
We chose to move to
Mad by
Parkland because
National
it was
Political
the
Causes
best
Potential
community
Offering push
area,
measures
the
up
best
against Syria
area.
deeply.
Until I received this text from my daughter saying that she's in a closet, that there is a shooter in the school, and that she loves me. I didn't know if I would see her again. My other daughter, she had to evacuate. She ran like crazy until she reached her dad that was waiting for her in the other side. And then we couldn't hear any more from my daughter from the closet because the network was out. And we were wondering if we would see her again. And we are the lucky ones because now our daughters are safe. There is no place for guns in schools. There is no place for guns.
Greatness and two party post to sack
What
leader
to say.
vote and
No
by.
parents have to go through this. No kids have to go through this. We have to end this craziness.
Biden, in public and private, tiptoes toward a 2020 run. Trump visits Florida family members at hospital after massacre. Whether ousted UCUP leader Henry Bolton. How Russia benefits from Turkey's saffron Operation Syria deeply. A timeline of a tightening siege in eastern Ghouta, Syria deeply. Mueller indicts 13 Russians for meddling in 2016 US presidential election. France 24. Politics Yahoo News latest news ampersand headlines. Front race on recovery after giving Selena Gomez her kidney. People come. In Homs, Assad accused of using military for urban planning Syria deeply. Copycat how Facebook tried to squash Snapchat
by the
wired.
U.S. Justice Department, which accused 13 Russians and 3 Russian companies of meddling in America's 2016 presidential election, Russian and American government officials responded. Russia has repeatedly
Hungary
denied
PM Christian
influence
culture
in the
treasurer Lex Jones
presidential
info hours
election.
there is
Today, at a
one for your
security
mind.
conference in Munich, Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov said he had, quote, no reaction to the indictments.
So until we see the facts, everything else is just blather. I beg your pardon for a not really diplomatic wording.
At the same conference, America's National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, said the evidence of Russia's meddling is clear.
We're becoming more and more adept at tracing the origins of this espionage and subversion. And as you can see with the FBI indictment, the evidence is now really incontrovertible and available in the public domain.
The indictment by Special Counsel Robert Mueller detailed a coordinated scheme by Russians to interfere in the U.S. electoral process, boost President Trump's presidential campaign, and undermine Hillary Clinton. The indictment alleges that the Russians posed as Americans on social media and bought misleading online ads, staged political rallies in the U.S. without revealing their Russian identities or backing, and solicited and paid Americans to promote or disparage candidates. President Trump has called Russian meddling in the election a hoax.
Report when Dixie owner preparing for bankruptcy. Up to 200 stores could close WSB TV.
And that the Russian interference began in 2014 before he was a presidential candidate. For more on the Russia indictments and
Russia's Lavrov says reports on US election interference just blather.
at Barnard College and Columbia University. No surprise that the Russians said what the Russians said today. We don't have the facts. This isn't us, etc., etc.
The facts are pretty incontrovertible, assuming that they can back up the statements that they made in the indictment.
I'm looking for things. This one is over the top. People are walking into glass at the new Apple headquarters #market watch. Now this is just outlandish. Published February 17th, 2018, 11:17 a.m. at futuristic building uses glass extensively, and 2 people have already needed medical attention after smacking into panes. Silicon Valley is known for moving fast and breaking things, but Apple Inc. may want its employees to slow down in order to not break themselves or the company's new $5 billion headquarters. According to documents and sources, Apple minus 0.32% has run into a problem at Apple Park. Because so much of the interior is made from glass walls and doors, for example, people are walking into the panes, sometimes painfully. The company, famous for its innovative design, experienced at least 2 incidents of men walking into glass and causing injuries serious enough to warrant calls for local emergency services in the early days of its new spaceship campus, according to documents Market Watch obtained via public records request. Both resulted in minor cuts but did not appear to require hospitalization, the records showed. Physics creates new form of light that could drive the quantum computing revolution. I can't believe it. For the first time, scientists have watched groups of 3 photons interacting and effectively producing a new form of light. In results published in Science, researchers suggest that this new light could be used to perform highly complex, incredibly fast quantum computations. The discovery that photons can interact could be harnessed for quantum computing. Christine Daniloff/MIT. Keep up with this story and more by subscribing now. Photons are tiny particles that normally travel solo through beams of light, never interacting with each other. But in 2013, scientists made them clump together in pairs, creating a new state of matter. This discovery shows that interactions are possible on a greater scale. Labor Board says Google could fire James Damore for anti-diversity memo. The Verge. Would you look at this? Google didn't violate labor laws by firing engineer James Damore for a memo criticizing the company's diversity program, according to a recently disclosed letter from the US National Labor Relations Board. The lightly redacted statement is written by Jamie Silver, Associate General Counsel of the NLRB's Division of Advice. It dates to January, but was released yesterday, according to Logcom. Silver concludes that while some parts of Damore's memo were legally protected by workplace regulations, the statements regarding biological differences between the sexes were so harmful, discriminatory, and disruptive as to be unprotected. Damore filed an NLRB complaint in August of 2017, after being fired for internally circulating a memo opposing Google's diversity efforts. Silver recommends dismissing the case. Bloomberg reports that Damore withdrew it in January, and that his lawyer says he is focusing on a separate lawsuit alleging discrimination against conservative white men at Google. NLRB records state that its case was closed on January 19th. In her analysis, Silver writes that employers should be given particular deference in trying to enforce anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policies, since these are tied to legal requirements. And employers have a strong interest in promoting diversity and cooperation across different groups of people. Because of this, employers must be permitted to nip in the bud the kinds of employee conduct that could lead to a hostile workplace, she writes, where an employee's conduct significantly disrupts work processes, creates a hostile work environment, or constitutes racial or sexual discrimination or harassment. The board has found it unprotected even if it involves concerted activities regarding working conditions. The Morris Memo, titled Google's Ideological Echo Chamber, contended that Google's diversity efforts were misplaced because they ignored women as biologically driven disinterest in technology. It includes many claims, which have previously been dissected in detail online, but Suffer focuses specifically on the Morris statements about immutable traits linked to sex, such as women's heightened neuroticism and men's prevalence at the top of the distribution. These statements were discriminatory and constituted sexual harassment, notwithstanding the Morris' effort to cloak his comments with scientific references and analysis, she writes. Moreover, she says Google carefully tailored its reasons for firing the Moore, limiting them to unprotected portions of a memo. Some legal experts suggested that Moore might have a solid legal complaint if he could argue that he was discussing working conditions, but that apparently wasn't a strong enough case for the NLRB, and Moore will be making an arguably tougher one in claiming that Google is systematically biased against white men. Report: Winn-Dixie owner preparing for bankruptcy, up to 200 stores could close bar WSB TV. Whoa, mama. Sign in using your WSB TV profile. Need a profile? Register now. Welcome back. Please sign in. By submitting your registration information, you agree to our terms of service and privacy policy. We have sent a confirmation email to *date_email address*. Please check your email and click on the link to activate your account. Larry Krasner says his office will no longer prosecute people for simple possession. At Newswood at Gardnimo, the indictment of debunked Russian influence of reeks of hypocrisy. Newswood exclusive by at Gardnimo. At News, and Korean ship with prioritized weapon smuggling arrives at Chinese coal port. At Activist 360, at Activist 360 no, at NR, if Mueller doesn't take down racist, serial lying psychopath Trump, Emma Gonzalez most assuredly will. At McCastain 81, Canada is kicking our booty, curling.
Welcome to Breaking News Today. The like button, and if you're new, make sure they hit that subscribe button down below and turn on my post.
Authorities reveal exactly what Florida shooter was on during mass shooting. Most people don't know this, but nearly every mass shooting over the past 20 years has one thing in common. And no matter what the leftist mainstream media tries to tell you, it's not the AR-15. The Miami Herald is now reporting that Nicholas Cruz, Florida, the Valentine's Day massacre shooter who killed 17 and injured much more, was also on mental health medications. And even other media sources such as the Washington Post also reported Cruz was treated in a mental health clinic. Mental health clinics are well known for dosing up patients with mind-altering, psychiatric drugs instead of using old-fashioned therapy on their patients. The side effects of these drugs are many, and they are devastating. One possible explanation for the psych drug linked to these awful mass shootings is that psychiatric drugs cause shooters to believe they're playing a video game and not actually shooting in real life, where shootings actually have consequences. The medication disconnects their brains from the real world, and the actions they're taking don't seem real to them. They begin to live in a kind of altered mental state when it comes to reality. All this happened when the field of psychology decided it was a better idea to just drug up their patients instead of doing their jobs and
News
curing
and current
people
affairs
through
from Germany
therapy.
and around the world.
They
DW.
started drugging up our kids because the generations after Generation X were brought
Germany
up
is
with the
Gabriel
idea
Lini, the
of
European
understanding
movement,
instead of
DW
discipline, so
17
whenever a
2.2018.
child acts up because they know no boundaries, they are drugged up and turned into zombies. Maybe it's time the psychology field stop acting as an extension of the far left, and instead of reclassifying diseases to
Wes
fit
Anderson
the
as I
liberal
love dogs
agenda,
is
they
no
should
file
start
feast film
curing
DW
patients and
15
advocating we
2.2018.
return to the old days of parenting. The days when discipline was preferred over drugs.
Sweden says open
Don't
to
you
leading on
agree?
peacekeeping mission in Ukraine.
Via
News
Ammo
DW
Land.
17
The
2.2018.
following list of mass shooting perpetrators and the drugs they were taking or had been taking shortly before their horrific actions was compiled and published to Facebook by John Novsk, founder and
The
owner of
acknowledges
Novsk
failure to
Rifle
investigate
Works, just
upon
days
Florida
before
gunman
he
Friends
was
24.
mysteriously killed in a single car accident. Is there a link between Novsk's
Suicide
death and
bombers
his
kill at
outing
least
of
19 in
information
northeast Nigeria.
numerous
Market
disparate
attack Friends
parties would
24.
prefer to suppress, for a variety of reasons? I leave that to the individual readers to decide. But there is most certainly a documented history of people who knew too much or were considered a threat dying under extraordinarily
Did Russia affect the
suspicious
2016
circumstances.
election? It is now
From
undeniable.
Catherine
Wired.
Smith, a Tennessee DMV worker who was somehow involved with several 9/11 hijackers obtaining Tennessee driver's licenses, and was later found burned to death in her car, to pull a
Samuel Alton
surprise
Justice is
winning
determined in the
journalist Gary
presidential
Webb,
palace. News
who
DW
exposed a
17
CIA
2.2018.
operation in the 80s that resulted in the flooding of LA streets with crack cocaine, and was later found dead from 2 gunshot wounds to the head, but was officially ruled as a suicide. To Frank Olson, a senior research microbiologist who was working on the CIA's mind control research program in Cultura. After Olson expressed his desire to leave the program, he was with a CIA agent in a New York hotel room, and is alleged to have committed suicide by throwing himself off the 10th floor balcony. In 1994, Olson's sons were successful in their efforts to have their father's body exhumed and re-examined in a second autopsy by James Starrs, professor of law and forensic science at the National Law Center
Israel
at George
strikes
Washington
Gaza strip after 4
University.
soldiers wounded. News DW
SARS team
17
concluded that the
2.2018.
blunt force trauma to the head and injury to the chest had not occurred during their fall but most likely in the room before the fall. The evidence was called rankly and starkly suggestive of homicide. Based on his findings, in 1996 the Manhattan District Attorney opened a homicide investigation
Russia's
into
Lavrov
Olson's
says
death,
reports on a selection
but was
interference
unable
just
to find
blather.
enough evidence to bring charges. As I said, I leave it to the individual readers to make up their own minds if Novsk suffered a similar fate. Onto the list of mass shooters and the stark link to psychotropic drugs. Eric Harris, age 17,
calls for defense
first
strategy.
on
Alex Jones
Zoloft,
in
then
4 hours there as a war on for your
and Dylan
mind.
Klebold, aged 18, Columbine school shooting in Littleton, Colorado, killed 12 students and 1 teacher.
Germany
and
considering
wounded
free public
23
transportation to take on
before
air pollution.
killing
News
themselves.
DW 13
Klebold's medical
2.2018.
records have never been made available to the public. Jeff Weiss, age 16, had been prescribed 60 milligrams/day of Prozac, 3
US government
times
is
the average
exceptionally
starting
vulnerable to
dose for
cyber
adults.
attacks,
When he
security
shot his
expert says.
grandfather, his grandfather's girlfriend and many fellow students at Red Lake, Minnesota. He then shot himself. 10 dead, 12 wounded. Corey Badgard, age 16, Wahluke, Washington State High School, was on Paxil, which caused him to have hallucinations, when he took a rifle to his high school and held 23 classmates hostage. He has no memory of the event. Chris Fetters, age 13, killed his favorite aunt while taking Prozac.
Counting the homeless on the streets of Paris, France. 24.
Age 12, murdered both his grandparents while taking Zoloft. Matthew Miller, age 13, hung himself in his bedroom closet after taking Zoloft for 6 days. Kip Kinkle, age 15, on Prozac and Ritalin, shot his parents while they slept, then went to school and opened fire, killing 2 classmates and injuring 22 shortly after beginning Prozac
New York
treatment.
prosecutor sues Harvey Weinstein's studio ahead of report to say News DW
Prozac killed his
2.2018.
mother and then killed 2 students, wounding 6 others.
World news
A
breaking
boy in
international news in
Pocatello,
headlines.
Idaho,
Sky News.
Zoloft, in 1998 had a Zoloft-induced seizure that caused an armed standoff at his school. Michael Carnell, Ritalin, age 14, opened fire on students at a high school prayer meeting in West Paducah, Kentucky. 3 teenagers were killed, 5 others were wounded. A young man in Huntsville, Alabama, Ritalin, went psychotic, chopping up his parents with an axe and also killing 1 sibling and almost murdering another. Andrew Golden, age 11, Ritalin, and Mitchell Johnson, aged 14, Ritalin, shot 15
Analysis
people,
Iran and Israeli
killing 4
containment in
students,
Syria
1
deeply.
teacher, and wounding 10 others. T.J. Solomon,
Alex Jones
age
in 4 hours
15,
there is a war on for
Ritalin,
your mind.
high school student in Conyers, Georgia, opened fire on and wounded 6 of his classmates. Rod Matthews, age 14, Ritalin, beat a classmate to death with a bat.
Did Russia affect the 2016
James Wilson,
election? It is
age
now undeniable.
19,
Wired.
Various psychiatric drugs from Greenwood, South Carolina.
Kosovo
took a
marks
.22
10th anniversary of
caliber
independence
revolver
from
into
Serbia.
an
France.
elementary school,
24.
killing 2 young girls and wounding 7 other children and 2 teachers. Elizabeth Bush, age 13, Paxil, was responsible for a school shooting in Pennsylvania. Jason Hoffman, FXO and Celexa, school shooting in Alcogen, California. Jard Victor, age 15, Paxil. After 5
Women
days
in
on
jeopardy.
Paxil, he
What
stabbed
comes
his
next? Syria
grandmother
deeply.
61 times. Chris Shanahan, age 15, Paxil rigged the Idaho who out of the blue killed a woman. Jeff Franklin, Prozac and Ritalin, Huntsville, Alabama, killed his parents as they came home from work using a sledgehammer, hatchet, butcher knife and mechanic's file, then attacked his younger brothers and sister. Neil Furrow, Prozac, in LA Jewish school shooting reported to have been court-ordered to be on Prozac along with several other medications. Kevin Ryder, age 14, was withdrawing from Prozac when he died from a gunshot wound to his head. Initially it was ruled a suicide, but 2 years later, the investigation into his death was opened as a possible homicide. The prime suspect, also age 14, had been taking Zoloft and other SSRI antidepressants. Alex Kim, age 13, hung himself shortly after his Lexapro prescription had been doubled. Diane Routhier was prescribed Wellbutrin for gallstone problems. 6 days later, after suffering many adverse effects of the drug, she shot herself. Billy Wilkham, an accomplished wrestler and a University of Florida student, was prescribed Prozac at the age of 17. His family found him dead
Russia
of
wanted Trump to
suicide,
win, and it
hanging
wanted
from
to
the
get
tall
cut.
ladder at the
The New York
family's Gulf
Times.
Shore Boulevard home in July 2002. Kara Jan Fuller Otter, age 12, was on Paxil when she hung herself from a hook in her closet. Kara's parents said, "The damn doctor wouldn't take her off it and I asked him to when we went in on the second visit. I told him I thought she was having some sort of reaction to Paxil." Gareth Christian, Vancouver, age 18, was on Paxil when he committed suicide in 2002. Gareth's father could not accept his son's death and killed himself. Julie Woodward, age 17, was on Zoloft when she hung herself in her family's
Mueller arrest
detached
indictment of 30
garage.
Russian strikes fear into the Trump White House.
Matthew
Mother
Miller
Jones.
was 13 when he saw a psychiatrist because he was having difficulty at school. The psychiatrist gave him samples of Zoloft. 7 days later his mother found him dead, hanging by a belt from a laundry hook in his closet. Kurt Danish, age 18, and on Prozac, killed his father with a shotgun. He is now behind prison bars, and writes letters, trying to warn the world that SSRI drugs can kill. Woody
return from brain,
age
gained
37,
demoralized ties.
committed suicide while in his 5th week of taking Zoloft. Shortly before his death, his physician suggested doubling the dose of the drug. He had seen his physician only for insomnia. He had never been depressed, nor did he have any history of any mental illness symptoms. A boy from Houston, age 10, shot and killed his father after his Prozac dosage was increased.
Stolen €1 cello
Hammond
returned to French
Memon,
musician
age
athlete
15,
Gaylor News
shot and killed a fellow middle
DW72.2018.
school student. He had been diagnosed with ADHD and depression and was taking Zoloft and other drugs for the conditions. Maddie Sari, a 22-year-old culinary student, shot and killed 9 students and a teacher, and wounded another student, before killing himself. Sari was taking an SSRI and a benzodiazepine. Stephen Kosmerchak, age 27, shot and killed 5 people and
Washington,
wounded 21
D.C.
others
issues permit
before
for
killing
possible
himself in
Hyperloop
a
station
Northern
fortune.
Illinois University auditorium. According to his girlfriend, he had recently been taking Prozac,
Prozac, Party House latest leader
and
and revolt
Ambien.
News
Toxicology results showed
DW72.2018.
that he still had trace amounts of Xanax in his system. Finnish gunman Pekka Erikolvinen, age 18, had been taking antidepressants before
Searching it up. Give me a sec. Check these digits. Germany considering free public transportation to take on air pollution. News DW 13.2.2018. Would you just look at this? Gosh. Facing new penalties over poor air quality, Germany has said it wants to test free public transport in 5 cities. Bonn and Essen are among the cities to serve as testing ground for the new project. Under pressure from the European Union to rein in air pollution, the German government said it is considering a plan that would make public transportation free in its most polluted cities, according to a letter seen by German media on Tuesday. The letter, sent to European Environment Commissioner Carmen Uvela in Brussels, was written by German Environment Minister Barbara Hendricks, Agriculture Minister Christian Schmidt and Chancellery Office Chief Peter Altmaier. Read more: Germany's air pollution. Clean up or pay up. The German government proposed a free public transportation scheme to encourage people to leave their cars at home, thereby reducing nitrogen dioxide emissions and particulate matter. Washington, D.C., issues permit for a possible Hyperloop station. Fortune. Check this. Washington, D.C., has issued a permit allowing Elon Musk's Boring Company to do preparatory and excavation work in what is now a parking lot north of a national mall. The company says the site could become a Hyperloop station. The permit, reported Friday by the Washington Post, was issued way back on November 29 of 2017. The permit is part of an exploratory push by the city's Department of Transportation, which according to a spokesperson is examining the feasibility of digging a Hyperloop network under the city. The Hyperloop is an as yet theoretical proposal to use the pressurized tubes and magnet-levitated pods to move passengers at very high speeds. A Boring Company spokesperson told the Post that a New York Avenue location, if constructed, could become a station in an underground transportation network. The Boring Company last year showcased the possibility of moving cars underground on maglev sleds, though that concept wasn't quite a version of the Hyperloop proper. The increasing prominence of Musk's own Boring Company in pushing for Hyperloop construction is a notable reversal of the entrepreneur's initial plans for the concept. When he unveiled a paper describing the idea in 2013, Musk said he wouldn't be directly involved with building it. That led several independent startups, including Hyperloop One and Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, to take up the cause. Get data sheet, Fortune's technology newsletter. Britain's anti-UKIP party ousts latest leader Henry Bolton. News DW 17.2.2018. I always find the weirdest things. Members of the Independence Party have voted to sack their latest leader, Henry Bolton, after only 5 months in charge. The anti-immigration group appears to have lost its way since Brexit. The Independence Party UKIP party removed leader Henry Bolton following criticism of his leadership and a scandal about racist comments made by his lover. At an extraordinary general meeting in the central English city of Birmingham, activists voted by 867 to 500 ballots to endorse a no-confidence vote. Bolton has broken up with girlfriend, Jo Marnie left, since the racist comments were publicized. Bolton, 54, had a public falling out with the party's National Executive Committee, which sought to remove him after he left his wife and began an affair with his 25-year-old lover, Jo Marnie. Marnie made racially offensive comments about Prince Harry's fiancée Meghan Markle in text messages sent to a friend and leaked to the Daily Mail newspaper last month. Washington, D.C., issues permit for a possible Hyperloop station. Fortune. Wow, check out what's going on. Washington, D.C., has issued a permit allowing Elon Musk's Boring Company to do preparatory and excavation work in what is now a parking lot north of a national mall. The company says the site could become a Hyperloop station. The permit, reported Friday by the Washington Post, was issued way back on November 29 of 2017. The permit is part of an exploratory push by the city's Department of Transportation, which according to a spokesperson is examining the feasibility of digging a Hyperloop network under the city. The Hyperloop is an as-yet theoretical proposal to use the pressurized tubes and magnet-levitated pods to move passengers at very high speeds. A Boring Company spokesperson told the Post that a New York Avenue location, if constructed, could become a station in an underground transportation network. The Boring Company last year showcased the possibility of moving cars underground on maglev sleds, though that concept wasn't quite a version of the Hyperloop proper. The increasing prominence of Musk's own Boring Company in pushing for Hyperloop construction is a notable reversal of the entrepreneur's initial plans for the concept. When he unveiled a paper describing the idea in 2013, Musk said he won't be directly involved with building it. That led several independent startups, including Hyperloop One and Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, to take up the cause. Get datasheet, Fortune's technology newsletter.
If a delicious matcha tea donut is made and no one is there to taste it, is it delicious? If a photographer captures the perfect moment and no one ever sees it, was it perfect? If a small business opens and no one ever buys anything, is it a business? It's not enough to just make something. Make your business stand out with a beautiful website. Make it Squarespace. Start your free trial today and use offer code SoundCloud to save 10%.
At David Yankovic. Politicians saying they want dorm teachers when they want even fun feeding children is the most absurd thing. So I'll pay for every teacher to have a Beretta, but not for every kid to have a decent meal. Seriously, vote them out. Idiots. At Nikic knows nada. We can no longer expect consent from cowards like Ted Cruz, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Marco Rubio, Rick Scott 10% 45. My mass shooting generation will step up, make change, vote, run for office 10% protect our kids. Saturday mornings at Chat Their Assistance. At Disavo Trump 16. Florida high school student Emma Gonzalez has shown more moral courage than the GOP and Gunner put together. Retweet if stand with Emma as she demands gun reform from Congress and the President.
Democrats and the mainstream media who continued to push this lie on the American people for more than a year. And quite frankly, Americans should be outraged by that.
At Real Savira. Parkland High School student gun control would not have prevented this.
I had 2 classes with him back sophomore year. I never really associated with him or talked to him until one day I got paired to do a project with him. And he just started talking to me. He was telling me about how they got expelled from 2 different private schools. He was held back twice. He had aspirations of joining the military, and he enjoyed hunting.
People said he made unusual markings on his body. He left an incredible trail of kind of evidence pointing to this on social media. It sounds like he was the kind of kid you then took pains to avoid.
I hadn't seen that at the time. I just always thought that he was unusual and strange, always sat alone, twiddling his thumbs, keeping to himself, laugh at himself.
So what was your reaction when you heard that it was him?
I wasn't surprised, but it was kind of unfortunate to hear.
How, if you were a lawmaker, an adult in a decision-making position, how would you stop, do you think, the kind of thing that happened today? A kid who'd been thrown out comes back with a weapon and takes out whatever grievance he's been walking around with in his head.
Gun-wise, I don't think there's any way to prevent it. You outlaw guns, just creates higher demand for it. I think it has to do with mental health, though. If he's been expelled 3 different times from 3 different schools, I think he should be helped out.
At Michael Betty 3. Diane Feinstein is 84 years old, Mugosava, California, case info. At Engine 1949. Praying to their good. Prolific author Stephen King has built a legendary writing career off of his unique ability to craft a fictional world, but sometimes fictional ideas shoe. At Eric Garland. Mueller won't take care that they didn't realize they were breaking the law in a way that helped Russia make war on humanity. At all. At Squitastic. This woman won today. I love this. At Amish Frog Guy. Get loot content off of my TLU fiends. At Gob, Eric from Buffalo, New York shared his story. It is your turn. Do it at...
Thank you again, President Trump, for all you're doing.
Hey, is anybody around? If you're around and you have another screen, you should call up President Trump's latest tweet about the Russian ads. Oh my God. I'm trying to get my jaw back up off the floor. Yeah, I'll read it for you in a moment. So I'll read you the president's tweet first and then what he is retweeting. So, everybody come on in here. So, President Trump tweets this, and this was just recently. He says, "The fake news media never fails. Hard to ignore this fact from," and it's important who this is from. This is from the Vice President of Facebook Ads, Rob Goldman. Alright, so President Trump just retweeted a tweet which is part of a chain of tweets by the Vice President of Facebook Ads. His name is Rob Goldman. Now let me read you Rob Goldman's tweet.
Pakistan man sentenced to death for a murder of 7-year-old News DW172.2018.
Alright, so Rob Goldman, Vice President of Facebook Ads, tweeted,
Berlinale opening Wes Anderson asylum
excited
of
to
the
see
no-file
the Mueller
based film
indictment
DW152.2018.
We shared Russian ads with Congress, Mueller, and the American people to help the public understand how the Russians abused our system.
Stolen €1 million cello returned to French musician of legaler News DW172.2018.
Still, says Rob Goldman, Vice President of Facebook Ads, still, there are key facts about the Russian actions that are still not well understood. And I thought to myself, I thought I did understand. But what will Rob Goldman, Vice President of Facebook Ads, tell us is something about the Russian ads that I didn't already know? I'm pretty well informed. I follow the news. But there is something that I didn't
13
know.
Russians for meddling in 2016's presidential
Goldman,
election.
Vice
France
President
24.
of Facebook Ads, is going to tell us in this next tweet. He says, most of the coverage of Russian meddling involves their attempt to affect the outcome of the 2016 U.S. election. True, we knew that. And then he says, I have seen all of the Russian ads. He's seen all of the Russian ads because he is the vice president of Facebook Ads. He says, I have seen all of the Russian ads, and I can say very definitively that swaying the election was not, in capitals, not the main goal. He says, next tweet,
Russians
he goes,
indicted
the
in special
majority of
counsel
Russian
Robert
ad
Mueller is
spend
pro.
happened after the election. What? He goes, the majority of the Russian ad spend happened after the election. We shared that fact, but very few
The acknowledges
outlets,
failure to
meaning news
investigate
outlets,
upon Florida gunman
have
France
covered
24.
it because it doesn't align with the main media narrative of Trump and the election. I don't even know if this is real. You know, I hope Rod Goldman is a real person and that's really his job at Facebook. Because the first thing I thought was, uh-oh, the president fell for a hoax, and I'm falling for it too. As far as we know, is he real? Is Rob Goldman a real person? You know, it wouldn't be that unusual if the president retweeted somebody who turned out to be an imposter. I mean, that's
Idling women in
sort of
jeopardy.
every day on Twitter.
What comes next? Syria deeply.
Oh my God. First of all, I'm amazed that Facebook or, you know, somebody that high up in Facebook would just come right out and say the news coverage is completely false. Here's why.
How Turkey has potential
And you're
offering
trying
push
to make it
measures up
fit
against
the
Syria deeply.
anti-Trump narrative from Facebook. Oh my God. And Is there anybody here who knew that fact? How many of you knew that the majority of the Russian ads came after the election? How many of you knew that? I watch a lot of news. I didn't know that. And weirdly, I don't think I've even seen it on the conservative media. So there may be more to this story.
Stolen €1,000,000 cello returned to French musician of Gaylor News DW 17
If 5 minutes from now
2.2018.
I have to pull down this periscope because I got something completely wrong, don't be surprised by that. Because, I always caution you that when something seems too, amazing to be true, it probably is. This feels too amazing to be true. So, I'm not sure I can completely believe it yet. But the fact that the president tweeted it makes it hard
Let's
for the
take a
major
look. Found the juicy
outlets
Munich
as
Security
Facebook
Conference.
Vice President
German
of
Defense
Ads
Minister on the threat to global
makes it
stability.
harder for them to ignore it.
I don't know what to think about this.
So, a few people have
Cyber attacks are the greatest challenge threatening global stability, Germany's defense
Somebody says
minister
they
told
knew that, and
CNBC
it was
Saturday.
very commonly known. So some of you did know it.
Recent cyber attacks, namely NotPetya and WannaCry, have shown that sensitive and personal data have become the target to destabilize companies and governments worldwide, creating what's often described as a war, given the power of
I
the
don't
information.
think the issue is necessarily
stolen.
that no one ever covered it. I think the issue is that it got covered and then people act like it wasn't the
When
case.
asked about the single greatest threat to global stability, Ursula
because
von
that
der
so
Leyen, the
completely
German defense
changes
minister, said, I think
what
it's
you
the
think
cyber
of
threats
what the
because
Russians
whatever
were
adversaries you can think of, and even if you talk about
I
Daesh, the
suppose you could
terrorist
still
group,
argue.
they use the cyber domain to fight
You could
against
still
us.
argue that they wanted
Governments and
Trump
several
to get
international
elected
groups
'cause they
have,
thought
as
that
a
would be the
result,
worst thing
boosted
for the
their efforts
country.
to better protect their networks against such attacks.
So maybe it was
At the
all
same time, they have also
part of
stepped
their,
up works to become more offensive on the web against their enemies.
sowing
The
problems.
UK, for example, is reportedly using cyber warfare in order to fight the so-called Islamic State. According to von der Leyen, cybersecurity is going to be the main focus for this decade as both governments and companies try to protect their data. Theresa May calls for coup security #agreement news DW 17 2.2018.
If it's common
This is an
knowledge,
interesting perspective.
I would be pretty surprised. Because it's possible.
The Prime
I've even
Minister
mentioned
Theresa
it
May
before.
has
Somebody
called
said
for a
I've
security
mentioned it
treaty
before.
between the EU and Britain to
Because
protect
it
all its
feels like
citizens.
the news
European Commission Chief
covered
Jean-Claude Juncker
this
said security
and then
ties
acts
between
like
the two
it
will be upheld.
isn't the case. Because you would think that every time this topic came up, people would say that
British
most of
Prime
these
Minister
ads
Theresa May on
came
Saturday
after the
said a
election,
bespoke
and
security
therefore,
agreement between the United Kingdom
it
and
couldn't have
European
been the
Union was
main
needed
goal.
to avoid damaging and real-world consequences for people in both regions.
Yeah, he's
Speaking at
not
the Munich
verified.
Security Conference NSC,
So it made me
May
wonder.
said she recognized that there is currently no security agreement between either country and the EU that captures the real breadth and depth of the can-lose relationship.
Yeah, so
Furthermore,
none
as you
of
were
this
bold enough to counter us
rules out
ambivalence,
the possibility
we must now move
that
with
Russia
urgency to
did
put in
want-
place the treaty that will protect all
was
citizens
trying to
wherever
help
they are in
Trump
Europe. To
before the
make this happen will require real
But
political will on both sides,
if
May
you see
said.
it in terms of,
I
it's a
find this
completely
particularly
different story.
fascinating.
If you just see it in terms of, well, they're colluding, versus, no, the moment he was elected, they turned on
The
him.
ability of Syria and Iraq's
Because
minorities to
if they
rebuild their
turned on him
communities
the
in the
moment he was
post-ISIS
elected,
landscape will depend very much on the
probably wasn't
political
any
situation in
colluding
these countries. According to analyst
by
Yusuf
then he
Kalian,
would not have even
stolen
had time,
€1,000,000 cello
to
returned to
stab
French
them in the
musician
back
of
of it.
Gaylord
So
News
they would have no
DW
reason to
17
stop supporting
2.2018.
him. if they had colluded in the first place. So why this is important is that most of the
an 18th century cello worth more than $1.3 million, $1.6 million has been returned to an award-winning French musician. Soloist Toffee Gaillard had been robbed at knife point outside Paris earlier in the week. An attacker had held French soloist Toffee Gaillard at knife point outside her home earlier in the week, forcing her to hand over the cello before fleeing on foot in the Paris suburb of Pantin. After the robbery on Thursday, Gaillard appealed for help from the public on Facebook, sharing pictures of the instrument. Help. My cello was stolen this evening in a dark flight case, Gaillard wrote in a Facebook post, accompanied by pictures of the instrument. I received an anonymous call late in the morning saying that my cello was inside a car in front of my house. I found it in the back seat, soloist Toffee Gaillard told the Agence France Presse news agency on Saturday. One of the windows of the car was broken and the musician said she quickly grabbed the instrument, which is in good condition, before notifying police. The police confirmed that the cello had been found.
On CNN. Alright, let's see if Fox is covering it. Maybe, am I making more of a thing of this than it should be? To me, it seems like the biggest news I've heard in a long time.